Holly, you had mentioned in season 4, you said it wasn't included that you and Hef had been doing IVF, right? So why wasn't that included?
Yeah, I didn't really think about including it just because even when I did go on to have kids, like I'm always the one who doesn't want to tell anybody I'm pregnant until after like the 3-month mark. Like I just want to be safe. Yeah. Like I didn't want all that scrutiny on something that may or may not work. I mean, obviously looking back, I'm so glad it didn't work because I went on to like have the kids of my dreams and everything. But yeah, it was wild looking back.
I also did egg retrieval while we were at the mansion, and they didn't, I advocated for them to show it because I thought it was a really important message to send, and they refused to film it and said that it showed me planning for a life outside of the mansion, and that's not something they wanted on the show.
That's powerful. We don't want you to show that you could have a life outside of these walls.
Without Hef, a life without Hef.
Hey, I'm Holly.
I am one of them. One of the girlfriends.
It's crazy. It's like a dream come true.
So that first season, you all didn't even have a contract.
No, we didn't have a contract till the last season.
Till the last season you didn't?
Yeah, we just signed releases. That's it.
Wow. How do you feel about that now?
It's insane. I just feel like it's not industry standard for a reality show, especially when you have 3 main characters of a show. It was just weird because we were kind of treated like children in a way. Like, you guys live here, so you're just gonna do this show because it's what I want. And, you know, we weren't paid for the first half of the first season for all the episodes they ordered, and we weren't put under a regular contract.
What would you go back and tell yourselves then about how to approach the show and what to do differently?
Definitely to stand up for myself and advocate for myself more. I'd been in that relationship for 4 years, and as the, you know, being Hef's like main girlfriend, it was like really heavy, and I'd kind of been conditioned not to ask for anything. And I know Bridget and Kendra were asking why are we not getting paid, and I wish I would have stood up for myself more earlier. I did at one point. I eventually talked to Hef's secretary, Mary, and said, look, you know, I'm spending money on like outfits for the show and like things we're doing, like activities we're doing, so I'm spending money to do the show. And then she was like, okay, that's not right, let's get you guys paid. But like, she was the one who came through for that.
Well, Kendra and I definitely were asking about things like that, the contract, getting paid, like why are we just doing this? And they basically told us we know where the door is if we didn't want to do it, that there would be a million girls that wanted to be in our shoes.
Yeah, they said you're replaceable, so you can't ask for anything.
So Mary advocated for you. I have to ask, how does that make you feel about Hef? Because do you wish he'd advocated for you to get paid, to get taken care of by the show? Are you resentful of that?
I mean, that would just be the tip of the iceberg of my resentment. I can't believe it. Like, I don't think the network was necessarily aware like what was going on as far as how we were being handled. They just saw us as like being in Hef's bubble, but between Hef and the executive producer, like they should have known.
I just feel like it was coming more from the executive producer making those kinds of decisions. I didn't really blame it on Hef at the time. I guess now that you bring it up, it's possible that maybe he held some of the blame too. But I mean, we weren't even given credits on the show. Like if you watch the credits, our names never even come up except for just when we're interviewed.
When you say the tip of the iceberg of the resentment, what's underneath the surface?
I just didn't see a lot of things when I was in a relationship with Hef. I always wanted to see him as this amazing person. So if he was ever like instigating drama between the girls, I never saw it. I just blamed it on other girls, you know? And by the time I finally saw that and broke it off with him, it's a lot to unpack, you know? You have somebody's back and want to believe the good things they say to you for 7 years, and you end up feeling betrayed when you look back and, you know, realize that that person never had your back and never cared and just kind of got a kick out of you not getting along with the other girls or having a hard time, and it's rough.
I don't think, not to interrupt you, but I feel like he did care. I
No
definitely think
way.
he cared about
saw
you.
how miserable I was. I think he cared in a narcissistic way, like, oh my God, she'll hang out with me and watch old movies. I can keep this girl around. But I was just going through so much, you know, mental health turmoil that I confided in him, and he just didn't care. Like, he just loved the drama. He loved being fought over.
We are here to talk to you about our show, The Girls Next Door, and I'm nervous. Are you? I'm a little bit nervous too. I'm nervous to rewatch the episodes, not so much to talk about it.
What were your first reactions to rewatching that series premiere?
Horrified. I'm a zombie in it, first of all.
Well, it's funny because Holly started rewatching them a while ago because she was doing these YouTube things, and she told me, when she asked me if I wanted to do the podcast, I was like, yeah, sure. I have all these positive memories of it, and So then she was like, okay, I just want to warn you though, episode 1, 2, and 3 are a little
Rough.
And then once you get past that, it gets better. And I was like, okay. And I thought she just kind of meant getting into it again and like watching yourself on TV again. But episode 1, 2, and 3, I was horrified.
What is horrifying about it? What don't you like about the way you were made to look?
And we did develop like a close friendship with the executive producer. But then when I go back and I look at it now and I see things I didn't notice before, I'm like, oh, really? He did that to me? So it's kind of a feeling of betrayal inside as well.
Definitely.
I just feel like I was edited to look like I have absolutely no personality or interests. And it was just, I mean, it changes over the 5 seasons.
We get into all the layers of reality TV. That's a whole conversation. I'm seeing now what you're saying because, again, I just watched it and they show you going to school. They show Kendra going to massage therapy school. And then they show you, and this line you say stuck out to me.
Like if I could get married and have kids tomorrow, I totally would. This is it for me. This is where I am and this is where I'm gonna stay.
How did you feel watching that moment?
Well, that was true for me at the time, so that was fine. But also they show what Kendra and Bridget are doing, but I was in school for real estate investment at the time. But they don't mention that at all. Like you can see the books on the side of my bed, you can see me in bed studying, but they never mention it. And I just feel like, I was kind of done dirty with that.
What about watching the show back does make you happy or nostalgic? What are those positive things?
Seeing all the pets, because this was 15 years ago, so sadly, like none of the dogs and cats are around anymore because it was so long ago.
And you
but
have
to
so
see all
many.
Your pets, yeah. And like when I see myself holding one of my dogs on TV, like it's visceral, like I can remember what that feels like again. So I love that. And there were a lot of fun memories with the 3 of us doing things that were new to us and fun opportunities. So even though there was drama, like I have more positive memories with all 3 girls, or the 2 other girls, than I have negative.
Yeah, you can't deny it. There was a lot of fun opportunities and amazing things that we got to do. So it's not all negative.
The way you all were portrayed. You see you talking about like Kendra getting to do more than you, getting to do other things in that first episode. I was having a hard time understanding that. What was that difference of Kendra being treated differently than you 2 were?
I think any time in that group when someone was the new girl, they got treated with a lot more leniency, because when I was new to the group, you know, I was the one he put on the pedestal and compared all the other girls to and tried to make them feel bad because they weren't doing what I was doing. And if I had a request, I got it, because when you're new, you don't have anything sunken and invested into that relationship.
Have you ever talked about that with Kendra? Asked her about that, the differences?
I have not. I mean, she's welcome to come on the show if she wants to talk about it. We'd love to hear it.
How do you feel about that different treatment?
You know what, I have never talked to her about it, and not because I wouldn't, but for me, it's something I thought, is this just in my head? Like, is it just because it's just me and I'm thinking it's not fair to me? But now that I'm rewatching it, I'm like, no, it's not just me. This is clear as day.
Well, where do you stand with Kendra? You just said she'd be welcome to come on the show.
Yeah, I don't talk to her, but she's welcome to come on the show. Like, I don't have any problem.
I maintained a slight relationship with her. I did an episode on her show one time. I will text her every once in a while if I need something or have a question for her, but it's not like we go to lunch or anything.
Yeah.
Did you fall in love with Hef at any point?
I think I definitely thought I was in love with Hef, but it was very Stockholm Syndrome. Very Stockholm Syndrome.
I do have to ask about the Playboy docuseries. We saw you both in it a little bit. Kendra decided not to do it. How do you feel about that now that the series has come out and the reaction to it has been out there?
Well, you haven't seen it yet.
I have not seen it. No.
I watched every episode except episode 2 that I'm in, because I just did not want to watch myself talk about my trauma. And every episode I watched, I would have nightmares that night. It was crazy.
When I was first asked to do the documentary, I didn't want to do it. I heard that it was going to be kind of a negative portrayal, and like I said, my experiences are positive. And I told them I didn't think that my story fit their narrative, and they were really pushing for me to do it, like to the point where I was crying on the phone with them. I don't want to do this. And then between my agent and other people, they felt like I should do it. And then again, I feel like my story didn't fit their narrative, so they only cut down my interview.
How much do you think the show affected your experiences at the mansion for those years?
The show made it so much better. Yeah. I say, like, I mean, I might have my things to say about the show and the editing here and there, like, trust me, there's a lot, but I always say, like, the show saved my life because it gave us so many opportunities, and it gave us value in Hef's eyes, because now we were like assets So I felt like he treated me a lot better after the show was established and after he saw that we had a following and after he saw that the audience was really invested in like his and my relationship, and fans would be like, oh, we want you guys to get married, and then he was like super into me.
What a word you just used though, Holly. You said it made him see you as assets.
Yeah.
Which, if that someone's your partner, for them to see you as an asset, there's a darkness to that. You know? Like for him to say, well, now I see you're valuable because you're making this show work for me. So where does your brain go with that, and how much do you think you're gonna unpack some of that stuff with the podcast?
We're definitely gonna unpack all that with the podcast, but I think at the time I knew it. I knew why he was all of a sudden so much more interested in me and making our relationship work. But at the time, I was just so grateful for being treated better. I didn't care.
The reason I think the mansion was very cult-like, looking back on it, is because we were all kind of gaslit and expected to think of Hef as like this really good guy. And you started to feel like, oh, he's not what they say in the media. He's just a nice man.
Are you guys glad you did the docuseries?
I decided to do it just because I knew so many other women were coming forward with their stories, and I know what it feels like to feel like you're the only one. So I wanted to be supportive of that.
Yeah.
I wished I didn't do it. Like I said, I didn't really meet their narrative, and I'm glad that some of my stories corroborated some of Holly's stories, so I'm happy with that. But like, I just wish that I didn't do it at all.
Well, so now you're doing the podcast. Is part of the podcast you wanting to kind of take back your history and do this and tell your full experiences that you had there?
Absolutely. You know, people always ask me, they're like, if you're so traumatized by it, why are you still talking about it? But being able to talk about it on your own platform where you can really get across what you want to say and go over all the nuances and the things that might seem contradictory is really satisfying for me.
And I've never really talked about it on any kind of show, and so this is my first time really kind of opening up about it.